So 2022 is very quickly coming to an end. And throughout the comment sections and various other boxing forums, I've seen people express their disappointment in 2022 as a year for boxing. And now I can understand why people are expressing this sentiment. We've had big fights, meaningful fights that have just failed to materialize. Some big fights have been pulled at the last minute, and it hasn't been the greatest year for boxing. To give you some examples, we have Terence Crawford and Errol Spence in recent days. That's fallen through almost completely. There's news that Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk is looking shaky. It looks like negotiations for that fight are on the rocks. And yeah, there's been a whole other bunch of pullouts and all these kind of inconveniences that mean that we don't get the fights that we want to see. And then other fights get made that we really don't want to see. And I feel that, despite me being a glasses half full kind of guy, which people often kind of perplex that I can be so positive, and I always try and give a balance out the equation and look at the pluses and the minuses. And I do feel that as consumers of boxing, we have a right to critique the product that we consume in the fights, the boxing action that we look to watch every weekend, every other weekend. And I'm interested in fair critique, in highlighting the strengths and the shortcomings of something. And so I always look to bring that balance, as I say. And now I just want to kind of balance this out by talking about something that's not necessarily positive, but I'm just looking at things from another perspective. And obviously it's easy to feel disappointed and upset and even just flat out annoyed with the sport of boxing sometimes, because it really can just spit in the fans' faces sometimes. And G-Man was talking about this on his live either yesterday or the day before, about how boxing is like the abusive partner, and us fans, we always kind of go back to it. Some of us have got more patience than others, but I feel it's necessary to sometimes just renew your appreciation. And there's been some news in the past, not even 2 weeks, it's like the past week and a half maybe, and some stark reminders of the harsh reality of boxing, in particular the fighters that we watch, what they go through. So you can see these examples on screen. I'll include screenshots. So there's this IFL interview with John Doherty, who's a young 25-year-old fighter from Scotland, in case you don't know. And he's talking about how he's had to make the very difficult decision to call it quits on his professional career. He's had to make the decision to no longer pursue professional boxing. And I advise you to watch the interview, because you can obviously hear it from the horse's mouth. But basically, he's had some scares regarding his brain health, his neurological health, after having a number of scans. And, this is commonplace, these kind of scares, because that's the thing. People often, I don't think they realize that, say, the severity of brain injuries, it's not something you always see straight away. John Doherty was talking about how a lot of his scans came back clear and he would have been cleared to fight. But he was having concerns and worries as he was training. He was experiencing symptoms. And that's what kind of prompted him to get another scan. It showed up, okay, yeah, maybe your brain's not in the best shape. Another domestic example is Dion Juma. He's a cruiserweight. He's a bit older. He's like 33. He's been around for a little while, and he's had to retire. He's had to call it quits because he's just suffered a detached retina in the lead up to one of his fights against Michael Lawal, who's another cruiserweight contender. And so just like that, you can see how a career can be cut short. And a lot of this stuff, a detached retina or some kind of brain injury, these can be picked up in sparring. So it's not even like you have to go for a grueling fight. Sometimes it just happens in the preparation. But then if we move on to the third example I'm going to include in this video, feel like this is probably the most high profile, and that is Aidos Yerbosinuli. He's a Kazakh fighter, I believe, a super middleweight. He's still in a coma, by all accounts, and it's been over a week. I think something like 10, 11 days, and he was put in a coma following his knockout defeat to what's his name, the Cuban fighter Morel. Is it David Morel? And yeah, I feel like all of these kind of things happening at once, because these are the high profile ones. This kind of stuff, it happens fairly frequently at lower levels, but of course, talking about nondescript fighters who have never fought on a television or anything like that, so you don't hear about them. But these are the higher profile incidents of this kind of stuff happening. And I feel like it just kind of puts things into perspective, because yeah, we can be annoyed with boxing, we can be annoyed with boxers who fail to push themselves or refuse to be in meaningful fights and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that is annoying, don't get me wrong. I'm not looking to stick up for fighters who refuse to challenge themselves, especially when they're in positions where they really are obliged to, such as being a champion. But I feel like sometimes we just have to balance things out and remember that this is a sport where these guys are gambling. They're gambling for, yeah, a paycheck, but it's entertainment at the end of the day. And if it wasn't entertainment, they wouldn't make that same money. So just just a bit of a nuanced kind of perspective, I feel, is necessary to just appreciate boxing as much as you can. You know, it doesn't mean you always have to kiss its ass and kiss the ass of fighters, but just remember what boxing puts people through. That's all I'm saying. And look, I'm not your parent. I'm not gonna govern what you say and do and what views you hold. This is just my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of you guys here who subscribe to me, I feel like you're cerebral guys. You're thinkers like I am, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this. But yeah, just my thoughts on something. It's kind of a topical video, if you can call it that. So yeah, just I guess that's kind of lay of the land of boxing right now. But let me know what you think in the comment section. As always, leave it down there. I'll get back to you. And for now, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.